Okay, welcome everybody. Section 45. Fiberglass work. Everybody's favorite. Who doesn't love fiberglass work? Um, I found, for the most part, the scribe lines to be relatively close to accurate. There wasn't any portion of this where I thought, man, I really wish I hadn't cut right up to the scribe line. With the caveat being that my cowling, if you look at it compared to where the spinner mounts, my cowling, if I had to critique myself a whole lot, my cowling is maybe, what would I say, like millimeter and a half off to the right. And some of that is even negated by the fact that it has to have areas in the inlets and whatnot built up. So what does it really matter, anyways? Um, but it's ever so slightly off. And really, I don't think the scribe lines had anything to do with that. I found that in especially around the firewall, I cut further into the scribe line. But anyways, that's how you start off. You cut scribe lines. You essentially find center, mount it up, and this would be the portion right here at this exact moment where finding center on the aftmost plate of the spinner, finding center would be the key part to this. Um, so, of course, double, triple, quadruple check. And I swear I did that. I don't know how I got just ever so slightly off. And it's so much so that nobody walking up and looking at the aircraft is ever going to notice that. But to me, because I'm the builder, I'm going to see that all the time now. I'm sure you could buy a Cirrus and it's going to be the exact same thing. The manufacturer was off just by a hair. Nobody else walking up to the plane, purchasing it, looking at it, is ever going to notice the difference. I am incredibly happy with my fitment, though, especially those bottom corners and everything else. It's to the firewall. It's just dead on, and then the two shells together are just dead on. So in the grand scheme of things, I will take a millimeter askew off the nose cone, and in fact, I I truly am still kind of standing on the idea that it really just wasn't even shaped correctly to begin with. When you really stand back and look at it, and then not in section 45, but much further down. I think it's at the end of baffles, or maybe afterwards. They even tell you you're going to need to flock certain areas and build up certain areas because they're just never going to be perfect from the factory. Lots of taping. Get yourself a big old roll of Gorilla Tape because you're going to be doing a lot of taping in this section. You can see it on that bottom cowl to hold it up. I did the board and a step ladder trick, which it specifically says in the instructions to do. Um, or if you have something even fancier, like some hoist and a strap that you could use, that I would highly suggest that. But yeah, other than that, I really don't have any other things that really bit me per se. Lots of fine drilling, changing out drill bits constantly. Um, Hinge pin still needs a little bit of tweaking. I don't know if I'll go with a cover. I do like those covers, and let's also talk about cam locks. I chose not to do cam locks. Um, I think mostly because historically I really like pain. That's my favorite thing. Just anything that makes my life more painful, I gravitate towards. And it started out with cars, and now here I am at airplanes. But anyways, I also really like the look of the hinge. It's You don't have big circular dots in your paint. I know that's something so trivial, and almost everybody building these airplanes will give that up just to have the ease of cam locks. I don't disagree with that. They're so much easier. This is painful, especially that top cowl and the pin along the firewall. Getting your hand into the oil door and pulling those pins out, which are the first ones to go, and the last ones to be put in. Getting those pins out, it's not easy. It is nowhere near simple. Um, I like the look of it though. I'm not gonna lie. That's 99% of the reason why I did it. People say that the hinge pins can be really sticky. I don't see that. Vans tells you to throw out the hinge dowel that comes with them, and they give you an undersized one. Putting a decent amount of Bayo lube on that, which maybe people just didn't buy Bayo lube and they didn't lubricate it like the plans say. But I, besides those two top pins on the top cowl, I don't see a problem with it. Right here, I'm going to mention it says to put in a coat of um, what am I looking for? I just lost the word. Uh, Extra coat of epoxy, and I found that really it accepted that coat so easily that I did a second coat. But I did wait. So I did the first coat. Then I realized that the exhaust ports needed sanding down. Then I realized that I was going to be doing all of this fiddly stuff on the top cowl. And so I did one coat on the top cowl, coat on the bottom cowl. And you do this so that they're easier to clean. One of my, on the top cowl, you can see right there, it had a run on it. So I sanded down the run, sanded the areas it said for the intake ramps. And then I went back and I did a second coating of epoxy on both cowls just because they were uh, clearly dry enough that they were going to accept another. Um, the 14's already tail heavy, so adding weight to the nose is not going to be a problem, or so everybody says. So I just decided, why not? If it accepted the first coat so easily, why not do the second? The oil door, I opted to do none of what Van said to do. I ordered my own hinge and my own locking mechanism. I will link to that in the description so that you can buy that if you want. It's very much off plans, but it's also very, very much self explanatory. I really had no problem installing it, and my God, do I like the look so much better. And it's so much easier to use, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. It was even a time saver. So win 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 in my opinion. Just a little bit more expensive. Again, I'll link that, and I'll see everybody in section 46. Take care.